Yeah, welcome everybody and good afternoon for this last session for today of the UI5con. So, I will give a short introduction about the topic, Fiori elements, and what we plan to show. And then I have a live demo prepared of the Visual Editor, the new tool which we are currently developing. And then Mariana will go into more detail about annotations and what it means to push down annotations to ABAP CDS. So before I start, I would like to know who of you knows Fiori elements? My classic, this is good, very good, very good, almost a full room. So next question, who has already developed applications with Fiori elements? Okay, there's fewer people, okay. And my last question, who was satisfied with the developer experience of Fiori elements? Oh, okay. So, but we are here to improve that topic. But I would like to give at least a short introduction about what we are talking about when we are saying Fiori elements. That's why the pitch on one slide. So, Fiori elements is our way to boost the developer efficiency. This is the basic of all our endeavors. And three pillars. The first thing is we are providing standardized page types so that you as a developer can focus on your business data and not have to code every and each UI. Of course, this also helps with UX consistency. That means as we are having put all the Fiori guidelines and best practices into our page types and floor plans, that means that all applications are automatically inherit that and keep your zoo of applications consistent. And this also means that if SAP invents something new, a new iteration of Fiori, like we now have with Fiori 3, then you get it for free for all your existing applications without modification. And finally, of course, this is the main goal, we want to scale the development. See, we want to make it easier, but this also means you can develop more applications, more high-quality applications in shorter time period. Okay, but this comes, of course, of a price, with a price, and the price is that you have to learn a new development model. And programming with Fiori elements doesn't mean you have to write JavaScript and HTML5 and code your controls and your controllers, but you have to write down annotations which are describing the semantics of your OData service, of your data you are pushing to the UI. And the annotations are there to describe certain things. So you have annotations for the behavior. You can express that something needs to be or can be creatable, something can be updatable. Or you can give consumption hints, like certain fields belong together or describe a contact and such things, so that the UI, then when the annotations are interpreted, can decide how to group certain fields. And finally, and this is what we are focusing on, the user interface annotations or UI annotations. So, of course, if you want to have an UI where you have the separation in certain, so that you want to define the columns of a table, or you want to define the fields of a facet, or you want to define what is in the header, what actions are in the table toolbar, and so on, then you have to give this to the UI, and these are the UI annotations. And this is the focus which we want to pick up for the next hour. How you can effectively do that annotations without knowing too much. And okay, so but before we go to that, I would like to recap what is the current development process with Fiori elements, especially also at SAP. So you have your mockup created from your UX designer. So then you go to the ABAP Development Studio and enter the CDS annotations together with the OData service, also the UI annotations to describe the UI. Then you have a second tool, you have to go to the Web IDE to create your app, your project, and do some additional tweaks if necessary, so additional flex changes for things you cannot express with annotations, extensions or local annotations which are not available in ABAP CDS, for example. So, and then you have an outcome and you check that against your mockup, and yeah, usually it is a bit trial and error. So you go back then to the ABAP Development Studio and iterate on that. So, and that means you have to know about 600 annotations and how they are used and which annotations express what. And you have to know what are the difference between CDS format and OData format and such things, and which things can be expressed with annotation and which things can't. So, and we would like to reduce that gap of knowledge, or this gap, where you have to create yourself that knowledge by a more efficient tooling. And our idea for the future is that you get your mockup, and then you do not leave the Web IDE. So you start in the Web IDE, create your applications there based on the existing OData service. And then, in a WYSIWYG way, you are developing your app with all the artifacts automatically created by the tool in the background. So, and you can iterate on that. You immediately see when you are doing something, what is the effect on the real application. And you can do that until you are finished, and then your final app is exactly like you wanted to have that from the mockup. So, and the final step, optionally, depending on whether you're using ABAP CDS or not, you can take these local annotations which are created during the development process in the Web IDE and push them to the backend. Okay, and this I would like to show you in the live demo, lab preview, and so. Okay. Let's assume I'm a casual developer and the service developer gave me a cheat sheet and told me, so these are the fields you have to use, and this is what I would like to have on the UI. And so I can look at it. So this is the application we want to create. We want to create a list report which gives a project manager an overview about his or her projects. So very simple, with a couple of fields about the project name, milestone data, whether it's in risk or not, and what is about the budget. So, and you also see that there are different visualizations. So we have standard data fields, and we have here criticality used, and we have here a microchart. So, and now my task is to rebuild that without knowing about annotations. And so I go back to the Web IDE, and let's start with creating a list report project. List report application, Fiori elements. So the name is project brief. It's a typo. And as I'm using the internal Web IDE, I have to specify an application component. So choosing a system, and I choose real internal system with a real service. So that's why it takes a bit to retrieve the catalog of all the services provided by ER9. And once this is completed, I'm presented with a list. There's a lot of services exposed by the system. That's why it takes a while. And I select my service, which was given to me by the service developer with the basic annotations already provided, but most of the UI annotations are not yet there. So next, I have to choose what I want to see on the list report, and this is the project brief. Entity set, I click on finish. And then the wizard creates a basic Fiori elements project, which is already working. So I can start the app, but it will not contain all the things, all the features you have seen in the target application. Okay, so it doesn't contain here any annotation. There are some from the backend, but not everything. So I can start the Visual Editor here right away, but I would like to do one tweak. I will switch the UI5 version because we are using really the latest and greatest functionality provided by the developers in the last days. So that's why it's important to switch to the newest snapshot from yesterday. And now I'm starting the SAP UI5 Visual Editor. And the SAP UI5 Visual Editor now automatically detects that this is a Fiori elements list report application and starts in that mode. So knows I'm a developer and I want to develop that application. Okay. press go, so to see some data for verification. So I see there's only one column, and we have the filter fields already there, but the other columns are missing. And yeah, I will add them now. Good. Create myself a bit more space here. Good. Let's start. First column. So the first column is the next milestone date. Okay. So this was the message that the annotation file was created in the background. Good. So, and I have to specify the label. Sorry, I'm on the wrong. Good. Okay. So, and now an annotation is written, label annotation, and it is automatically also reflected here in the preview. So, next column. Next column is the upcoming milestone. I hope you remember all the target application. So this is what we have to do here. So the upcoming milestone date. Okay. So this is all quite easy, and you see all this is really fast today. So the next one was the upcoming milestone name. So, and here comes also a thing which, why I'm doing that, changing the label, because the original service exposes all the information here as description. So the developer told me I have to use the second description and then to rename it properly. So this is real data from real service. So label will be upcoming milestone. Good. Okay, so 2 columns to go. The more complex ones. So now status. So the status I added here. Good. I can only click here while it's retemplating us. I deselected it. Okay. So, okay. We have already the data, but now we want to have the criticality associated. Good. So criticality represented. Okay, first the label. I think this was overall status, yeah. And I can combine that. Criticality was overall criticality. Okay. This one? Okay. Okay, so there's one final thing we have to, oh, not one final thing, but a couple of tweaks. So first, we do not want to have the icons. That's why we are removing those and say without icon. And there was also the ask to make it a centered column. So you see, we are switching now from the annotation part to the control properties part. So this is something you are doing via your flex change. Okay, center. Okay, you see it immediately. Okay, good. Let's save. Okay, and so now comes the final column. See, microchart. This was cost, if I remember correctly. So actual cost to date is what we want to display. So the tool is made in a way that you easily can add new columns, or you can work with the outline or with the preview. So sometimes when the space is not enough on the screen, Fiori Elements responsive tables pops in overflow columns. So then you have to go here because you cannot select overflow columns here on the preview. So I change it to chart. Then to bullet microchart, and then I have to enter a couple of mandatory fields. So first of all, what is the measure? The measure is the actual cost up to the current period. So I want to display, and then I get already automatically the data point created. So, but also the label has to be changed here. This is just cost. Oh, okay, I have to correct it. This was a typo. Okay. Cost, oops, caps lock. Good. Good. Okay, so we need a couple more values. The target value for the microchart. So what is basically the target project costs, and these are the planned cost up to the current period. So and then we need the forecast value. The forecast value is here basically the same. This is planned cost, but it's the same value than the actual. So there's no difference in this particular application, and we have to define a minimum value to get actually the chart rendered properly. Good. Okay, so now we see these are the real values. This is demo data from the backend, and this is the target value. And as we are below the target, this should be green. That's why we should add the criticality, and then we are, oops, this one, so. And then we are completed with that. Okay, so 3 more tweaks. I'm going to the smart table because I would like to have 2 features. First, I would like to have the application refresh the list report immediately on startup. So that's why I set the auto binding to true, and I enable the Excel export. You see that? Excel export. So this is also something important to see here, that we only show those properties, control properties, which are actually whitelisted by Fiori elements. So you do not see everything. You only see those things which are whitelisted by us. This is also helping the developer to not break the app. And finally, we do not want to allow the project manager to delete anything. That's why we are removing the delete from the screen. Okay. And if I did everything right, this app should now look exactly the same as my target app. So cross fingers. Okay, it's starting up now in the demo Fiori launchpad of the Web IDE. Okay, so this was the target app, so how it should look like. Okay. And now, switch back and forth. It's the same, no difference. Voila. Good. One thing, so just quick summary of this part. So what we did is we enhanced the already existing visual editor. So you know the visual editor in the Web IDE is currently used for 2 major use cases. So one is to allow the developer to modify control properties. So basically the lower part you have seen in the demo is a control property panel. And also allows it application developers and customer and partner side to extend existing applications. So, and on the left side, we actually want to go forward in the future to have a full-fledged WYSIWYG editor for Fiori Elements applications, so that you not only have the possibility to modify control properties, but also annotations and manifest parameters. This is all integrated with the Web IDE storyboard for the page layout and with the Annotation Modeler. The Annotation Modeler here as an expert tool for all the features we cannot offer in a real lean and easy-to-use way for the complex things, and also for the pushdown to ABAP CDS. And now I'm handing over to Mariana for the details about annotations and pushdown.
Thank you, Christoph.
So.
I can get your microphone. Does it work? Does it work? Like this? Like this? Okay. Good. So, yeah, that's what's easy to use tool, how to define the UI of the application based on Fiori Elements framework. And as you've seen, there is no much meat on knowing the annotations and what happens behind the scenes, but still I would say let's have a glimpse under the hood and see what has been done. Well, Christoph created his UI using the WYSIWYG Visual Editor tool. So when we started, it was just a plain app with a few selection fields and only one column in the table. In the end, you see that the table was really updated with a lot of new columns with some nice features as criticality and chart. And if we look, oops, sorry. Yep. So if we look behind the scenes, there are, of course, annotations that have been created. So let's look into this. So we had initially a table which was represented by UI line item annotation. And it had only one column, but due to Christoph's add column stuff, the other UI data field have been created for this line item. Then there was also created a UI chart when he decided to use a chart in this column. And of course, the data point was created to be referenced in this chart. So that's what was done behind the scenes. And if you look into the core, this is as much OData annotations that have been created. So to the existing line item, a few data fields have been added, and also UI chart and UI data point. All this we will look in the demo in a second, maybe. And it may be quite enough for most of the cases, especially if you develop for a customer, which is the highest level in the hierarchy, and you don't need any further reuse of the annotations that have been created. You can stop at this moment. But if you want to reuse the annotations that have been created in any way, as for example, you want to create new UIs based off it, new apps, or maybe you want to have these annotations in your basic partner app and then have some extensions or variants for the customers based on that, and you don't want to reprogram it again and again, then you need to send it to the backend. And as you know, at least those of you who worked already with Fiori elements and developed for it, the ABAP backend also has annotations, but they have different semantics and different structure, and this is called CDS annotations. And currently, they are all the UI-related CDS annotations are stored in MDE files, and the service-based or the annotations related to data definition are stored in the CDS views. And if you want to do this manually, that means that you need to know OData annotations, you need to know CDS annotations, and this is quite cumbersome and demanding, especially if you're doing for the first few times. So to close this gap and make it easier for you, we would like to provide an annotation transformation and push down to the backend. So as soon as you have created your UI, you're happy with that, as a final step, you click a button, go through the small wizard, and then you have all your annotations that you created here, your UI annotations in the backend. Yeah, and as you see in the backend, the syntax is different. Even the approach is different, because in OData you have like an annotation and you fill it with the properties. And in CDS you have properties and you annotate them with annotations, so it makes it a little bit different, even from the approach. So let me go to the Web IDE and see what we've got. So this app has been created in the Visual Editor, and from here you can, of course, dive into the Annotation Modeler using this button from Visual Editor UI, or you can do just conventionally open the annotation file, which has been automatically created. I will do the latter one now. So I just double click on the annotation XML file and it opens for me in the Annotation Modeler. Does anyone know Annotation Modeler here? Do you like it? Good. So Annotation Modeler, of course, helps you a little bit with creating annotations, because it provides the help input and validation and many other stuff, such as viewing the annotations. We can see what is defined in the local file. And as I said, there are 3 annotations that has been added. So that's the line item with new table columns, data point with all its criticality calculation, UI chart, which references in the end this data point, and all the other annotations, including the initial line item, have been defined in the backend, and you can see it in Annotation Modeler here. Yeah, you can see it strike through because it's overridden in the local annotation file. And also you can see in the usual code editor all these annotations, such as line item here, and data point, and UI chart. It looks like this. Yeah, if we look into the backend, this is our metadata extension file, Z1E project brief, and it contains the annotations that have been initially defined. So there are some for the object page, which is not part of this demonstration, and just a few annotations for the list report. So selection fields, we didn't create these 2, project and project name, and 1 single column for line item. So that's the current state of my app. And as Christoph showed you, it looks like this. So now, if I'm satisfied with this, I will push it down to the backend. And my goal is that the annotations that created here in Web IDE will land in the backend, but my UI will not change a little bit. Not at all. Yeah. So currently, I can start the annotation push down from the annotation file with the context menu, with deploy, and push annotations down to backend. This is currently an internal beta feature that we are having in-house. Yes, it's not yet available for outside, but I guess we are close to that. Yes, so here on the first screen, I can see the summary of what I'm going to push. This is my annotation file name or data source I'm pushing to, and the system that stays behind, the one that Christoph has selected when creating the application project. In the second step, I can select the layer package. So we usually in-house have a core layer, as we are the lowest possible, but we also have localization and industry. So if there are any changes that needs to be done in annotations for specific industry or country, but also for partner and for customer layer, there are options to use the annotation push down. And here I can also select one of the existing packages. So that should be the package where my MD exists already, if there are any. So I will enter the $TMP again, if I find it here. This is a local package. If you select non-local package, then you would need to select a transport request in the next step. But as that's a local package, transport request is not needed, so the wizard will just skip this step. And you see the validation results. So behind the scene, the request is sent to the backend to see if all the annotations are acceptable in the backend. And you see that all 3 annotations that we have defined can be pushed down. So that's line item, data point with such a qualifier, and UI chart. And they all will land in these metadata extensions. So the system behind the scenes check where it belongs to. And if there is a metadata extension file, it will push it there. If there is none, then it will be created. So all I need to do now is just to confirm my decision to put the annotations to the backend. Well, I did it, and you see that notification, the 3 annotation terms have been successfully pushed down and removed from the local annotation file. This is done to remove duplicates. So you see the annotation file is now empty. Also in the code editor, you just have references. And then all the annotations that we have created, like chart data point or extended line item, have been landed in the backend. Yeah. Also, if we look in the ADT and refresh our metadata extension file, you will see here that it has been automatically generated on Christoph's account for the same metadata layer as we entered in the wizard. We can see here chart has been added and data point, and you see much more columns in the line item. So yeah, but most interesting for us, what happened to the app. So this is the app as it was, and now I will reload it, and I will make sure that my app looks exactly like it looked before. That's because all the annotations that have been defined behind the scenes have been successfully pushed down to the back and transformed into this CDS language. And now you see, it looks exactly like it was before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mariana.
Yeah, maybe I switch to the presentations. So we would like to make a summary.
Yeah, okay. Good. Okay, yeah, so these were the live demos. And I would like to give you a summary about what you have seen and what are the plans. So as said, the SAP UI5 Visual Editor is a WYSIWYG tool which allows you to create your app with the preview, and then we are generating automatically the UI annotations. And in future also the other artifacts, manifest switches, and of course the control properties are already supported right now. And to complete the flow, in case you are using ABAP CDS, you get the pushdown tool which allows you to push it to ABAP CDS.
The battery over.
Okay, so
Sure.
sorry for the break. We need to switch again. Okay, works now. Perfect. Good. And what is also important is the tool ensures, of course, that best practice are used also for annotations. So, for example, we make sure that annotations which we are creating are able to be pushed down to CDS. So there are certain things which are kind of a bit different expressed in the backend, and also some restrictions. So not all OData annotations which are principally possible from the vocabulary can be pushed down. So, and we make sure that whatever the Visual Editor is creating, that this can be pushed down if there is a push down downable version. So if there is something which can be expressed in CDS, we make it so it can be pushed down. And also the tool is built in a generic way, so that means we are not hard-coding the features of Fiori elements and the page types and floor plans into the tool, but we are reading design time metadata from UI5, so from the floor plans itself and from the controls, and they tell us basically what properties are available, so what annotation terms have to be used to drive that particular element on the screen. And also UI5 provides a change handlers in case I'm doing any actions like adding a column you have seen in the demo, or moving a column. Then a change handler defines the procedure what has to be done. For example, if I'm adding a column, that means I have to write a new line item annotation. Takes the existing line annotation, adds a new column to the list, and writes a new line item annotation. And this is driven by a change handler. So the tool will be stable, so we can keep the tool to the actual features we want to provide to the user from the usability perspective, but we are not depending on the floor plan or on the revision of UI5. So with the new revision of UI5, you will also then get the new features in the tool automatically without that we have to program something. And also what is very important, the tool is also aimed at learning. So we, on the one side, we hide it initially, what is happening, but you always can check out the details. You can always jump to the annotation modeler and see directly what annotations are affected by what you did in the tool. And also you have seen all these question marks in the tool. You can click on those, and then you get a link to the documentation. So we have, so the SAP help is linked, and also the SAP UI5 SDK is linked for the controls. Okay, good. Yeah, so and the next plans for both are internal tests, beta tests at SAP. And if this all goes well, then let's see, beginning of 2020, then we can also make it available externally. There's a lot of things to be considered. It's not easy to develop that tool. That's why it took a bit more time than expected. So those of you who know my talk from last year, where I give a sneak peek and into a prototype of that, know that. So, but yeah, we are making good progress. You have seen that. So it's close to be finished with a viable scope. Okay. That's all from our side. Thank you very much. And we can go over to Q&A.